All right, everyone. Today we will talk about something really interesting. We assume about Paco's tools that he uses as a busy professional running 4 businesses in parallel. And there's a lot of tools that he handles every day, but he has no personal assistant instead. So it's the system working for him, not the human being. This being said, over 70 people, human beings working for Paco. So it's not like that there is nobody, but nobody has to waste the time on work about work for Paco. That's what we will dive in today. And today will be a bit different for those who are just listening to this recording of the podcast. We will share the screen and show our ICOR framework and lay out the tools that Paco is using. Nevertheless, it should be also possible for anybody just listening to get the point behind what we are talking about. And today we will talk about PKM. For those who are following us and know about the ICOR methodology and the ICOR framework, we split a productivity system into 4 parts. So there would be PKM, personal knowledge management, PPM, personal project management, or commonly known as task management, then BKM, business knowledge management, and BPM, business project management, right? And we will just cover PKM today. Otherwise, we won't have enough time to go through it. We will see if even one episode is enough to cover even just PKM. There's a lot to unfold here and uncover. But Paco, welcome to the show. You're excited to find.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, there we go. See what a guest we have. For the first time after 130 episodes. Well, in fact, Paco was with us all along, right? So now for those who are watching this on YouTube, you should see now the ICOR framework, and that's where we get started. Paco, anything you want to say about the ICOR framework before we dive in?
Well, first off, that this is one of the main tools inside the ICOR methodology that helps busy professionals to design, build and implement a productivity system end-to-end with any tools. Okay, that's the ultimate goal of ICOR. And also what we are seeing after 3 years working pretty tough with this methodology is that we are changing how people approach the world of productivity. And this is something that it wasn't expected because we were focused, at the end, everyone wants to have the perfect tool stack, and that was our ultimate purpose. That's why we created a methodology that allows, no matter what tools you want to use or you have to use due to your business or the company you're working in. That's why we created this tool agnostic methodology named ICOR. And the ICOR framework allows people to really see what their tool stack is, okay? The 4 different areas that Tom has just mentioned refers to all the possible combinations in the world of productivity. Okay, we have an individual part, then we have a team part that is the business part in the ICOR framework, and then we need to manage the 2 big worlds. Okay, information and action. Okay, that's why we have the project management area and the knowledge management area. Okay, and we will start doing this exercise. We have developed a specific tool. Okay, a software tool. Okay, that allows you to draw and work with this ICOR framework, and this is what we are going to do, okay? Because here we can see gaps, redundancy, and also being aware of the tools that we are using, okay? We've been delaying my ICOR framework, okay? Waiting for this amazing software tool to be ready. And this is the moment that people will see live what they should be doing, okay? To be aware of the tool stack and start taking action on it, because that's the thing, this is not something that you do and forget about. This is something that you can constantly check, especially when you see those shiny objects, okay, that emerge, that new app that seems life-changing. You need to be aware of the impact that it will have, if it will add real added value, and all the questions that we should ask before betting on a tool. So let's start with my PKM area, okay, how I manage information. It is important to say that right now, because many busy professionals will be in this position that they are running multiple businesses and they have, different companies, for instance, it's recommended that the ICOR framework covers your personal area and just one of your businesses, okay? Because this is what we are going to do here. In my case, I'm going to cover the paperless movement, okay? When we talk about business, it's not today, okay? But the moment that we move forward, I will only position the tools that I'm currently using at the paperless movement, okay? So let's start with the PKM area, that it's how I manage information and the tools that I use. So I'm going to start, this will be the brain process of any busy professionals who faces the ICOR framework, and you just start thinking about the tools that you are using, okay? So for me, there's the first one that comes to mind is Tana.
Yeah, before you dive into the tools, yeah, that's exactly what we do with our inner circle members when we do the coaching program. Before we even get started, they get into the My ICOR application and fill out their ICOR frameworks, something most of them, well, I would say 99% of the people never thought about the tool stack in a holistic way that we do here. And just by filling out the tools, you see the gaps or redundancies that your productivity system has. So the 4 areas that we mentioned is defining a productivity system for a professional end to end and connects information and action, and it makes you aware, do you have the right tools? And we will go beyond this because there's more than the core applications, as we call them, for these 4 circles, areas. There are also satellite applications and utility applications, but that's not something, maybe we cover it, but we will focus really on the core applications that we say, if you remove those from your tool stack, you will have a problem. And people keep adding these tools to their systems without even knowing that they're creating something that's crucial for their productivity. And once they remove it, they have a feeling that they get less productive. They don't really understand why. And this ICOR framework shows it really. So when we now add the tools from Paco, that's a highly streamlined productivity system. It's the same when I show mine. We are very well aware what tools are there and what we are using it and in great detail, and it's refined over years. That's not something you would get when you get started. You would get surprised when you start laying out all the tools, as we also show with this application, the pricing, the subscriptions that you pay monthly and all this, what you get great insights into your current tool stack and then make informed decisions. And when we start our coaching program, that's exactly what is the starting point for our inner circle members. And everybody is always surprised after the month of this cohort program, how this ICOR framework changes, usually simplified things. A lot of things removed that they had in place that was completely redundant, but also confusing. And as Paco said, let's dive into the PKM system. So what's the first tool that I should pick, Paco?
Well, Tana will be the first one that I would think about when talking about PKM. Also here, well, we will discuss, we will start listing the tools, okay? And the second one would be Heptabase, okay, correct. Then I have Readwise Reader, it's important. And now I will justify, because that's the thing, okay? The ICOR framework is going to ask you, okay, questions. We can name it that, okay? Because now we will start, because there's another one for me that is important, that is my mind, that is, well, increasing how relevant this tool is becoming for me. And it has been filling a gap that I had, because this is the purpose of this, okay? Asking if everything makes sense, if there are no duplications. For instance, right now, I have here 4 different tools in just one area, okay? If I think about information, I can also think about email management, okay? So for me, Gmail is the core.
So should I move it then to PKM? I don't think so, right? So
no, here is when we think. Here is what we think, okay? Because the email client manages a lot of things, okay? Talking about the 4 different areas, okay? It's team related. So business has an impact on this tool, but also there are actions there too, because when someone sends me an email that contains action, it also contains actions, you know? So we need to start thinking about where we should position, okay, that tool. The thing is that we have developed this tool with the busy professional on mind, okay? So the moment that you position a tool, you can see, okay, the different, okay, features, we can call them features, okay, that by positioning it in that area, you are covering, okay? Let's start here, for instance, where Tom, it's in the intersection of, so people who are not watching the YouTube video, they are aware, is the intersection of BKM, PPM, and PKM, okay? Here, as you can see, the ICOR framework is taking into account all the possible combinations of those 4 areas. That's the powerful thing, okay? Because now here is when you can start thinking about things that matter, okay, to you. So what else? Talking about information, as you can see, I'm improvising. I'm thinking in real time to decide if something, any tool that I interact with sounds like information, okay? For instance, let me think. My calendar, for instance, okay? My calendar contains information related to my events. Would that be information? Would that be action? Those are the things that we need to discuss to come with ourselves or with us, okay? Those are the type of discussions that we have with our people and our members when they are filling in the ICOR framework. And there's nothing wrong, okay? It's just thinking about forcing yourself to think about the position of that tool within your tool stack, okay? Because first off, most of the people are not aware about the number of tools, but also about what kind of tools are and why they are using it and why they belong to their tool stack, okay? So here, for me, these are tools. This is something that I'm convinced that I need to work, okay? I need to have all these 6 tools because if not, I have a problem. By the way, we are just using what Tom has mentioned as core apps, okay? Tools that if I remove them and forget about them, I got a problem, okay? If I remove my Google Calendar, I have a problem because my events.
I recommend now to just keep it this way as we focus this session on PKM. And what Paco mentioned with Google Calendar and being a PKM tool, that's when people add information to the events, like the agenda, or they add links to different files, or even attach files, which is possible inside Google Calendar and things like that. That is something that makes you now aware that you start adding information. But having just plainly the events on the calendar, we don't consider as an information system, as it is just a time management tool. So that's why Google Calendar ends up in PPM, in the task management area. And let's not get confused. Let's focus on the minimum tools here. Otherwise, we fill out the whole ICOR framework today and haven't talked about PKM. So we have here now Reader from Readwise. We have Mind, Tana, and Heptabase. Any other PKM tools that you're using that we should add there? And obviously, we talk also about journaling applications, or we have them in mind. We are using journaling applications, but adding it here and for the session, I think would be overkill, right? There would be then Mind Sarah, Day One, probably even more that you're using, all for specific use cases. And that's the important thing that you understand, no matter how many tools you use, that all of them have a specific purpose. And that's what the app tells you. When you look at it, the tools that we added to the ICOR framework are now outlined with an orange border that indicates that the details are not filled out. Now we just know that we are using 4 tools in our personal knowledge management area. But in order to really understand what we are using them for, we click onto the tools. And let's start with, what do you want to start with? Tana?
Well, I think that Tana, because it's for me the main one. So
click on Tana, then it opens up a modal with a lot more details that we can fill out here, including secondary categories. So the first one, the core category is the PKM, Personal Knowledge Management. But there's a lot of subcategories in this area alone. And that's something that people are not aware. And they search for the all-in-one solution, but not being aware of all the things. So they hit a wall. So for those who are watching, see this now here, that we have secondary categories here like quick capture, shallow thinking, deep thinking, inner world, outer world, visual thinking, handwriting, journaling. And now think about it. When you have a PKM system, and it's really great for connecting information, problem solving, you have then deep thinking there, for example. And then you say, man, but this is really bad in handwriting. And then you ditch the tool and search for something else that is really good in handwriting. And then you start using it because you focused so much on the feature handwriting that was missing. And you realize you're hitting now a wall when it comes to deep thinking, for example. So let's say Tana versus Apple Notes. Yeah. So you realize now by doing this that you probably need both, but for specific use cases. And how these tools work together, then that's something we come much later in another episode when we dive into the task management. But here, Tana is open. Paco, how do you?
Yeah.
What's
I use it for
subcategories would you use?
I use it for quick capture.
Yeah.
For shallow thinking, for deep thinking, for my inner world, and for journaling. Okay. I don't use it for visual thinking. I don't use it for the outer world. And I don't use it for handwriting. Okay?
Very quickly, what's the difference between inner world and outer world? For those
important is that inner world is the information that is created by me, that comes out of my brain, whereas the outer world is the information that comes from third parties. Okay, for instance, YouTube videos, an article that I read, a book. It's content that is generated for someone that is not me. Okay, that's the main difference between inner world and outer world. And this is something that people combine, okay? The moment that you start mixing inner world and outer world creates a lot of friction. Obviously, you are free to do that approach, but we will see why I have split it completely, the inner world and the outer world, okay? Because I want to clearly differentiate between the things that comes out of my mind versus the things that comes from third people, okay? And this is something that for me is crucial, and the more that we give this advice to our members in our coaching sessions or even the membership, they appreciate that it brings a lot of peace, because we have to think that the outer world is full of noise, whereas, okay, the inner world delivers much more signal, okay? If something comes out of me, is much probably, okay, the probability is higher that it's useful information, okay? Whereas the information from the outer world, it's something that tends to be due to the overwhelming world of information that we are living in, that we need to distill, and the process are completely, the way I distill my own information is completely different of the way I distill the information from the outer world. And we will use examples with the tools, because I think that that's how people will better understand why this is this way, okay?
Yeah. And as we can see, when we open this up, it shows also the ranking inside the paperless movement. So only our paying members have access to the My ICOR application. And we do this on purpose because we know that the data quality that is there is really high, as people who use the tool really want to have the right information in there. And we see Tana is ranking at number 21. I'm surprised. I thought it would be higher, but it is. It just shows that when we look at Heptabase, right, it would rank on, well, let's see if it is still ranking 1, we will see. But it also says 18% or nearly 19% of our members are using Tana. And this means 147 members who filled out their tool stacks. That's based on this number, 147 members. We have 1,000 members, and 147 so far filled out their My ICOR app, as it is very new application. But it's really interesting to see how things grow. And when we go now to find tools, you see here 331 tools have been added to the system so far. So because we cannot add all the tools that you use. That's why our members have the opportunity to just add the tools that they use, and the system will find the relevant information around the tool and adds it to the system. And that's really interesting to see. And we see still Heptabase is ranking number 1. 61% of the members are using Heptabase.
Amazing. And also amazing, by the way, having 331 tools. Man, there, imagine the crazy world we are living in.
Yeah, now imagine trying to make a tool comparison platform and now try to fill out these tools and add the information. It's nonsense. You will never get interesting information if we manually do it. It will always end up just sharing the feature set of these tools that you find on their websites. But here we see really now how people are using the tools, as you can add the pros and cons. And when you fill out the tool stack, you end up on the tool stack page where we see now that Paco added the Tana and the core applications, right? When we scroll down, You see an overview of the different core categories: personal knowledge management, personal projects, business and business knowledge management, and the subcategories. Now we see immediately, okay, Paco is using Tana for these subcategories that you mentioned, and we have 3 who are grayed out: outer world, visual thinking, and handwriting. So now we clearly see the things that are not covered. Maybe it's on purpose. Like Paco will say, handwriting will always stay gray for him, as he doesn't care about handwriting. But you would be aware what is missing.
I love that approach and that screen. Okay, I think that was an amazing feature because here in the ICOR framework, it's something visual to see the overlapping, the gaps, blank spaces, and all that thing. But here, you are really seeing, talking about functionality. Okay. Because here we have distilled the main ones that any VC professional should need. Okay, that's what we have considered like all ICOR. Okay, because it has been thought with VC professionals on mind. And the moment that you have something that it's uncovered, well, it might depend of your use case. Okay, but usually these are so generic that most of the VC professionals should take care of all these different type of features, okay, in the tools, okay? These functionalities are key, okay?
Yeah, and now with this in mind that these 3 categories are missing: outer world, visual thinking, and handwriting, going back to the ICOR framework, we ask already a different question. Do we have any of the 3 remaining tools who cover this? Heptabase, MyMind, and Reader? Well, I know the answer, but Paco, you can speak for yourself. Or do we cover the visual thinking?
Yes, correct. And that's why Heptabase is there, apart from visual thinking, okay? Because here we can talk a little bit between the differences, the main differences, because there are a lot, okay? Because just here, by the way, I want to highlight something. Just here in the PKM area and there, if we check out those 4 tools, they are completely different, talking about approach, features, and they are just within the PKM area. So imagine, because we receive many comparisons like, what do you use? I don't know, Heptabase or ClickUp, for instance. These are type of questions that we receive on a daily basis. Imagine comparing, if we are saying, and here we will keep highlighting the differences between tools within just one area, because if you find different tools in the same area, it's because they serve different purposes, okay? They have a reason to be there, okay? So imagine the moment that you start comparing tools with other areas. It's something that it's crazy, but here you got something physical, you got evidence of the reality that you have in your brain, okay? It's a fleeting thought. The moment that you don't position into something your tool stack, you are not aware of all the subtleties. Right now, we have seen that we have 4 tools that should be related because they belong to the same area, but also we have being aware that there are 3 key functionalities that any VC professional should cover that I'm not covering at this moment. Okay, so that forces you to find an answer. Okay, maybe the answer is like Tom has just said, handwriting. I don't care about handwriting. I don't handwrite at all, not even on paper. Okay, I don't know for how long I haven't written something on paper. Okay, so I'm calm that I'm not covering that functionality that for many others could be critical, okay? Because there are many people who love handwriting and they need to use it on a digital tool, okay? It's not my case, okay?
Yeah.
But talking and going back to visual thinking, that's where Heptabase comes into place, okay? Because it's an amazing tool to represent a way of thinking that is visual, okay? That's something that I cannot ask to Tana, okay? On top of that, it's not the same, the structure of an outliner, okay? Compared to a long text format as Heptabase is. There are moments where notes, bullets, whatever you name it, okay, makes sense. And there are some of the moments where plain long text format makes sense. For me, that's the difference between Heptabase and Tana. So my workflows are pretty well designed to know what tool is going to cover what, okay? And that's why Heptabase is part of my tool stack, and I need it, okay? I need a tool to make that visual thinking a reality, but also the long text format, okay? That for me, there are moments, especially being a writer, that I need to read long text format without the obstacles of an outliner.
So this means deep thinking would be then also used for Heptabase.
Yes, correct.
And as you can see, if you can see the screen, that you also see now the indicator what other tools are already placed in these subcategories. Gives you an indication. In this case, it's Tana appearing already in deep thinking. When you now click deep thinking, you see it goes yellow instead of green, just giving you a visual indicator that beware, you're using two different tools for the same subcategory, which is perfectly fine in Paco's case as he uses it for different workflows, right? But for those who have no idea, that is a warning signal that they might use two different tools and start scattering information in two different tools. For example, in this case, deep thinking. And if you look on the right side, there's the community insights that you always see when you open up your tool to see how other people are categorizing their tools. And as we can see, 27% added to deep thinking. Then in a world, visual thinking, shallow thinking, and quick capture, only 14%. So to me, it perfectly reflects what the tool is all about. It just shows that people are using Heptabase as supposed. I would be surprised if there would be anything else. It's surprising that journaling, for example, doesn't show up. I'm not using it for journaling, and it's not the best tool for proper journaling, but it has the option for journaling. So people are making informed decisions here for sure.
Yeah.
And we also see in general, they use it 81% for PKM, and then only 15% for business knowledge management, 5% for task management, and 2% for project management. That calms me down, because that's what we would recommend too. Use it only for your personal knowledge management system. And now they have collaboration features, so 15% seem also to use it for this way. But this is based on 59 Heptabase users in our community. So I think it's a significant information that we get here out of this. Great.
Yes, and imagine, for instance, that I see that I can create tasks on Heptabase, for instance. And I see here that for task management, there's only, a small percentage of busy professionals that are using it for task management. So I can, ask myself, am I doing the right thing using Heptabase as a task management tool? Yeah. Or maybe I'm wrong, because maybe here we are talking about a use case that is, we will say more or less clear, okay? But there are some other tools that it's not so easy, okay, to define, the real purpose. They merge many things. For instance, talking about planner and task management, there's, that blurry world, okay, full of not well-defined lines, that having these insights, you gain clarity for sure.
By the way, I just want to close Heptabase here quickly and open up Gmail. Because if you remember, we placed it on the intersection of 3 different core areas of the ICOR framework. And now you see what happens if you do this. If you open up the app, now you have all 3 core areas showing all the subcategories. And this just shows what you're trying to achieve with just one tool in all these areas. And for the email, it makes sense, because here we have a general use cases, which would be email management. And but that's where you get the right questions the moment, just by visually placing the tool in your ICOR framework. You get the right questions. Okay, if you place it here in the center and you want to have an all-in-one solution for everything, what subcategories do you cover actually with all this? So. But Heptabase, did we complete everything, or Inner World as well, or how do you any else?
Yes, Inner World for sure, Inner World, and that's it.
Okay,
that's it. That's my use case.
Well then, when we go back to our tool stack overview and we scroll down, what's missing now is Outer World and handwriting. So let's see.
So handwriting is crystal clear. We already talked about it. Yep. It's empty for me. But the outer world is what I use 2 tools, okay? 2 different tools. That it's Reader from Readwise, and also My Mind, okay? They have complete different use cases, and for me, they make all the sense, okay? All the sense. For me, talking about the outer world, as you can see, it's completely isolated from the inner world. Okay, the moment that I want to refer something, I just create the link. Okay, but the outer world, because it's pretty easy when we think about our future self, it's pretty easy to know if something came out of the outer wall or inner wall. So for us, it's pretty straightforward to go to the right tool, okay? Because if I think about something, no, there was a video that I saw, an article, a book I read. Well, it's not going to be in the inner world, okay? Maybe I mentioned there, but the single source of truth, I mean, where it's that piece of content is stored, okay, the right way, because that's the thing, the right way. And this is why I'm using Readwise Reader and My Mind, because it completely changes the way that the piece of content is stored, okay? For me, long pieces of content are always stored in Readwise, okay, in Reader, because for me, it's the right tool to consume that type of content. I love to watch a video there because it links to YouTube, for instance, but the piece of content is there with me quick annotations and the tags that I use to send to the different buckets. We're not going too deep into defining every single concept in ICOR because bucket is another concept. But for me, it's content that for me is pretty well defined, but there's some of the content, especially for me, that I consume a lot of content coming from X, the social media, that it's a tweet, something visual. And I love how my mind stores that type of content because it's a source of inspiration for me when I navigate and I see the different tweets, the different images. It uses really well AI. It allows to make searches based on text within images. That's something that we always demand. Okay, when we store an image that has text, why cannot I make searches and searching processes based on that? Well, my mind allows that, okay? And it's also a beautiful tool that promotes serendipity, okay? For me, that's something that it's amazing, that it's how I see most of the outer world content, unless it's linked to a project, something that I'm really, consuming at that moment and dedicating my time. But if not, the outer world is a source of inspiration, and for me, finding inspiration through long format pieces like a video, an article, a book, it's something that I consider consuming it on Reader. But those small nuggets, ideas, things, images that you see there, for me, my mind really nails it. And that's why I'm using two different tools for that purpose.
And as you can see, 45 or 46% of our members are also using Reader, and that makes it ranking on place 5 from all the productivity tools that we have in our database, right? And My Mind is also used by 7 people.
Wow.
At least.
I thought somebody. I was the only one.
The only question is everybody really aware how they use the tools? But this being said, if you look into the details, for Reader, it made all the sense. It showed also that the people are using it for PKM or utility app, satellite app. Again, we're not diving into these differences, but they're using it for the outer world. Quick capture, shallow thinking. Makes sense how people on autopilot, without us telling them what to place it for, they think about it and come to the conclusion, yeah, I'm using it for this way. And there you have it. This is the core PKM system from Paco with all the details filled out. When we go to the tool stack, we perfectly see now all the secondary fields for personal knowledge management are filled out, except handwriting, as Paco is just typing. It makes all the sense exactly what you have there. You see the different tools that you're using in the different categories. No gaps left. And next time, we will move on to the personal project management, the task management, because here it becomes really interesting how to manage these PKM tools too and keep them up to date. Paco, you wanted to say something?
Yes, that what an insightful view this is, okay? Because right now, no matter the item I'm dealing with, talking about information, I perfectly know how to store it and where to store it so that the retrieval process will be a piece of cake, okay? Because the moment that you perfectly store something quickly, the retrieval process will come on autopilot because you will follow the exact same brain process, and that's what ICOR does, and that's why we say that it's a cognitive methodology, okay? Because it's based on how our brain works, and here we see the perfect alignment between our physical brain and what we call the digital part of the brain, because at the end, I'm using the exact same workflows. Okay, the point is that here I'm using tools to enhance those processes and those workflows and make me work better. But the thing is that the moment that you have perfectly defined one area within the ICOR framework, everything works smoothly. And I think that that's important. Okay, everything runs on autopilot and there's no friction at all. Okay, and if you see that some areas have too many tools, for instance, let's say that for deep thinking or shallow thinking, you have 5 different tools, you need to study the different workflows, the different situations, the different scenarios that you are facing, and see if they work properly and every single scenario ends up in just one tool. Because the moment that the same scenario ends up in 5 different tools, that's where the problem comes out. Okay, because the moment that you need to retrieve, you say, what the heck, where did I store this? And then you need to go through all the different tools, and that's what we try to avoid. Okay, and that's why we also, by the way, created 6 specific workflows, that those are the only 6 workflows that any VC professional needs to really take care of. Okay, the moment that you
When it
have
comes
those
to
6
note-taking,
workflows
yeah.
defined to note taking, okay, you have them. So beautiful insights, and here we see how we are little by little understanding our tool stack. Okay, and that's the main purpose of the ICOR framework.
Exactly. And next week we will move on. And this is something I think we will keep doing for a few weeks before we really cover the whole productivity system end to end. And when we covered the 4 areas, we can go on to the connections and how things, where you then go into the optimization part. You can only optimize something when you have the information about something properly. And people always try to get to the end first and say, how can I automate my workflows? How can I automate my tools? Oh, there's a connection between Notion and my calendar and all these things, but they have no clue why they do the connection in the first place. And that's why we need to do these steps. And I'm really happy about this, doing it together with you step by step each week, building up this productivity system. So you can do this for yourself using the application or even a piece of paper for yourself and get to the same insights that we have here. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, and we catch you up then next week.
Yeah. See you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.